We have seen an alarming spike in hate crimes over the past couple of years. In a minute, I'm going to show you some of the facts and the figures. But first, here's Democratic Senator Tim Kaine. He spoke out after the horrific attack we saw in New Zealand, that where a gunman murdered 50 worshipers in mosques.
It is on the rise, and the president should call it out, but sadly, he's not doing that. We saw in the aftermath of the horrible attack in Charlottesville that he tried to say that the white supremacists, neo-Nazis, neo-Confederates there were just, good people. But when you see church shootings in Charleston, a synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, you see this hate-filled manifesto of the shooter in New Zealand who is murdering Muslims. We have to confront the fact that there is a rise in white supremacy, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim attitudes. The president uses language often that's very similar to the language used by these bigots and racists.
Of course, President Trump, he totally discounted any connection to him and also said this is not a growing problem. Take a listen.
We see today white nationalism as a rising threat around the world.
I don't really. I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's a case. I don't know enough about it yet.
Now, the president is wrong here, and don't take my word for it. This is not a right or a wrong, a right or a left thing. Just look at the data. We are seeing a major uptick in murders by white supremacists. Now, the propaganda they spread, it is also on the rise. And the number of hate groups in the U.S., it's exploded. There's also a steep rise when it comes to hate crimes in counties that hosted Trump rallies. Now, I'm talking about a 226% surge, that according to a new study. And the trend, it's going on in the same direction nationally. According to the Center for the Study of Both Hate and Extremism at Cal State University in San Bernardino, hate crimes in major cities, they went up by double digits in 2017. Well, my next guest, he is the Assistant Director of Research for that very group, Kevin Grisham. He joins us now. Kevin, simply put, this isn't theoretical anymore. This is very real, and there's enough of a time period to measure it that this is getting worse, not better.
That's correct. It is getting worse, and the trends are very alarming as we move forward.
Give an idea to the audience. We have our own theories, but in terms of the research, what is driving not only this hate here, but people acting out on it?
Well, I think there's a wide range of issues. One of them is probably demographic shifts, both here in the United States, but also in other countries around the world, including Western Europe. Also political rhetoric. Politicians need to remember what they say does actually matter. And so sometimes that seems to be driving people to thinking that certain types of behavior and certain types of rhetoric has now moved from the fringes really into sort of more mainstream discourse and some actions related to that.
And Kevin, speak to that a little bit more, because I noticed after Charlottesville, the amount of white nationalist groups who said, hey, the president's speaking for us. They felt validated or somehow normalized in their actions. And even when he tried to walk it back, they said, well, the press is really making him do it, but he feels like us. There was a lot of validation that came out of that. There's other incidents as well at other rallies where people heard what they wanted to hear, whether it be about immigrants, whether it be about people from S-hole countries, fill in the blanks here. But these groups finally felt that they didn't have to live in the shadows anymore because the president was speaking like them.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things is we've actually been looking at ourselves, and a colleague of ours, James Nolan, have looked at where we've seen spikes in hate crime after certain speeches have been given by the last three presidents. After 9/11, President Bush gave a speech and actually saying that Islam does not what had just happened does not represent Islam, and actually hate crime went down after the then candidate Trump, after the attacks here in San Bernardino, not far from where we're located, of course, is when he wanted to call for the Muslim ban. We actually saw a spike in hate crime after that. So to think that rhetoric doesn't matter, that it doesn't bring people into the mainstream, I think is sort of missing the bigger picture for those that would argue that it has no connection.
And in fact, if you want Exhibit A for this, I want to bring up this graphic. This shows, Kevin, in the days and weeks after the election of 2016, you saw a spike of 247% on election day and 72% in the 2 weeks after the election of a hate crime surge. So clearly, whether the president intended it or not, I'm not even going to attach any motivations to it, but the populations that heard the rhetoric from the campaign trail, that heard the separation depending on either color of your skin or what part of the world you came from, they clearly believed that somehow the election was an imprimatur that, hey, you know, there's more people like me out there and let's act on it.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, that's alarming because the problem is we're continuing to see hate crimes go up. We're continuing to see, for example, this year alone, both our center as well as our colleagues who do research at Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League all come to sort of the same conclusion. That is that hate-related homicides are going up, particularly amongst those that adhere to sort of white supremacist ideology. And everyone should be alarmed by that because anybody theoretically could be a target.
And you know, Kevin, for anybody who thinks, oh, well, this is a problem maybe, you know, in Appalachia or in the, you know, deep south here, they're missing the point that we've seen incidents nationally and now even internationally. And it seems to have a common vibe, which is a lot of the rhetoric that says the foreigner or the others are coming to either take your job or to change the fabric of this country. They're appealing to a denominator that says they're coming for you next. And it's like accelerant on a fire.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, it's just going faster now. But I can tell you, having traveled in Europe even just 7 years ago, that this rhetoric was already starting then, and now it's just becoming more mainstream.
Very troubling trend. Well, Kevin Grisham, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, when we come back, we're going to shift gears and we're going to lighten things up. It's Friday night here, and if you're a hockey fan, I suspect many are in our viewing area, you know the Stanley Cup playoffs already underway. When we come back, Justin Walters, he's at the Nassau Coliseum as they get ready to drop the puck for Game 2 of the Islanders and the Penguins. We'll have a live look-in with him right after this.